Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see also new faces, new names. Just about the session before I introduced our presenter today. As you know, our motto for the community is more together, and it means that our kind of mission as well to introduce community members who are talented in their fields or in any fields, or they just want to show up. And basically, from the beginning, I was very happy to have one person in the community, especially one person, and it was Donabel, because I really admired her SQL and Tableau skills on LinkedIn, basically, and also in YouTube, because she's also sharing videos, tutorials on LinkedIn. And then the idea came that, okay, part of this community member presentations, it would be nice that if she could present Tableau. And this is now her first session. And we are planning also another session in August or in September, we will see, for SQL. And also the idea came up not only because Donabel having this skill and expertise, but because in the community, everybody's asking, okay, what should I learn? How should I start as a data analyst or data scientist? And everybody is popping into obviously Python and R and other programming languages. And then I just saw that, okay, let's give an alternative, because not everybody is coming from the tech side. So I know that when I started, and I'm coming from the financial side, when I saw Python and I started to learn, I got scared. I got really frightened. And in the meantime, I also started to learn SQL. That was a little bit relief for me, because I had some more success, obviously, and more understanding of this whole tool. And then suddenly, by accident, let's say, I just realized that Tableau exists. And then I felt that, yeah, my life is saved, because it is obviously, when you are starting to learn Tableau, you realize that it's there is Python behind, and Python helped me. So the logic from Python helped me a lot with Tableau as well. But then I realized that, oh, it's unbelievable that there is a tool, there's such a fancy tool to data visualization, which is much easier to use. And I said, okay, let's combine it, and let's try out how it is work. If I can do certain things easier in Tableau than in Python, for example. So it was a really nice exercise to compare the two tools. And then obviously everybody can decide which tool you will use, and it depends also on the company, what they are using, because there is also Power BI as a comparison to Tableau, obviously. But the bottom line is that we saw that, okay, let's try to show something else than Python or machine learning and something like that. So this is maybe less technical, this session today. It is kind of an introduction, and now I would like to give the floor to Donabel. And if you can start, Donabel, to introduce yourself to the others, that would be great.
Okay, I'm fully nervous. I forgot how to use Zoom at this point. May I try to share my screen, please? Oh, there you go. Okay. As with any Zoom session, may I ask, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, right, good.
Thank you so much. I am actually really quite nervous. But what comforts me is I'm presenting to family, so please be nice, please be kind. So thank you so much. Thank you, Tom, for organizing the integrated ML. Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate and admire this family, this community. So anything that I can contribute to the many amazing things that people already do in this community, I'm more than happy to. So I want to kind of start with my presentation, and then I have a little bit of introduction there as well. And I would like to ask for you to please ask me at any time, even during the presentation, if there's any questions, please feel free to ask, either by unmuting your mic or I think I'm looking at the chat, so I'm going to try to monitor. So let's please make this informal and really conversational. So my presentation today is, the title is Table to Tableau. I don't know how I came up with that title, but it's really just to demonstrate what Tableau is or what Tableau could be for you. So I want to start with who I am. So my name is Donabel Santos. I think over the years I've worn multiple hats, but the one hat that I can really resonate with is my hat as an educator or as an instructor. So I teach part-time. For the longest time, I've been teaching at this institution called BCIT. It's British Columbia Institute of Technology. And I teach in part-time, and what that means is I teach either weeknights or weekends to a lot of professionals. So if you're a working professional, you don't have any time during the day to take the courses. So a lot of them will maybe come, one night a week, 2 nights a week, to learn something new. So I've been doing that for a number of years. I was having second thoughts about telling you how many years, but I probably should, because I feel like I'm dating myself here. But I've been doing this for 20 years. So I actually hit my 20 years this year. And I've started teaching when I was in school. So I was a TA, and usually when you're young, you have student loan, you have things to pay for. If there's contracts that come your way, you kind of just say yes. And that's what I've been doing. So I found myself like just being offered those contracts term after term, year after year, and 20 years have gone by and I'm still doing it. I also really love being an instructor. Now, I'm very careful about using the word mentor. I'd love to use the word mentor, but I feel like that will devalue the word, just because usually mentorship, you have like a personal touch. You are able to direct on an individual basis, but because part of my contract is to teach certain concepts, I'm not able to do that to all of my students. So I'm hoping that, some of them I've been able to help, but certainly I don't use the word mentor. Anyway, so that's a little bit about me. Now, I got introduced to Tableau, very similar to what Magdi said. In my organization, we were trying to look for tools that non-technical users can use. And we came across a few different tools, we evaluated them, and we landed on Tableau. So it was meant to be a tool that can empower a lot of domain experts, and in putting the data closer to them. So previously in the past, I've worked as consultant in many different verticals, but what I learned about myself is, I can write SQL. I can do all these graphs, but I don't know the data. So I'm not the domain expert. So I can't tell whether it's right or it's wrong, or if it makes sense. So our goal was to bring the data closer to the domain experts and the end users. And Tableau also has a program called Tableau for Teaching. And this aims to provide free licenses to instructors, to teachers, to institutions. And at that time, I wanted to combine my experience with education and with the program. I really liked working with Tableau. So I was able to help provide and create the initial materials for all the instructors. So at that time, I was working with a program manager called, his name is Jason Schumacher, but I think he's moved on to Tableau Foundation now. But these are 3 of the first tutorials that we were able to offer instructors. And just one more note on my experience with Tableau. My background's actually I was watching Sean's presentation, and I realized you're in mining. My original background, what I was studying to do was geology. So when you're talking about mining, blasting, finding all these things, that all resonates with me. But life happens, takes us to detours and stuff. So I ended up in data or in IT. So my background was in programming. In my first years, when I created a report, I had to program everything. I had to program the margin, the pixel, the word wrap, everything. So the moment I got introduced to tools like SQL Server reporting services and then eventually Tableau, to me, it's like magic. Like, you can do that in 1 minute. It takes me weeks to figure out how to wrap properly, like, put the hyphens. So for me, it was one of the reasons why I really loved working with this, because of my background, spending days or weeks tweaking one report. And because I was teaching, and because of last year, how 2020 was, a lot of my classes went online. And there are times when I'm teaching twice a week, 3 times a week, or even 4 times a week. And it's not enough to have 1 hour or even 3 hours per week to learn Tableau. So that's what prompted me to create a channel. So my channel right now focuses on Tableau, and I use this as a resource for my students because I still want this to be part of their experience. So it's still me teaching them. So that's how this started. Now it's called SQL Bell because before my Tableau life, I was very active in the SQL Server community, and that was, again, dating myself here, probably around 2010. And a lot of people called me using SQL Bell. So people still know me as SQL Bell in the SQL Server community. It's very interesting, especially at that time, you go to conferences, you meet people, and they call me SQL Bell. So I decided to just keep that name, even though I'm not as active in that community right now. Anyway, background story. So this is me. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of an idea who I am. I also just want to footnote that even though it sounds like, oh yeah, I've been teaching here for 20 years, I'm doing this for a number of years, I also want to footnote that I'm not an expert in these areas. I know enough to share what I know. But it also doesn't mean that what I say is always right. It's not true, and the products always change. So again, I'm not trying to portray myself as an expert in any of these areas, but I just want to make sure I footnote that too. So before I go to a Tableau presentation or preview, I want to talk about data first. And I want to start with this quote from Stephen Few. Stephen Few is a renowned expert in the visualization field. He has a few books that a lot of us use, but he basically says numbers have an important story to tell. They rely on you to give them a clear and convincing voice. And I think this is very true. And we always need to remember that it doesn't matter what data set you're working with. Those don't mean anything until somebody analyzes, until somebody finds out something about it, and until somebody communicates that story or communicates the finding or the recommendations. So I think just kind of just a foundation. I am really nervous. So I'm going to pause right now. This is a
Donabel,
slide.
real quick, let me interject. You're doing so awesome, and you're right. You're in our living room, and everyone here loves you and admires you. There was one thing I wanted to add to give you a chance to take some breaths and calm down, because I could tell
I'm
you're
actually really
nervous,
cold
but
right now.
you don't need to be nervous, but it's okay that you are too. And Jonathan said something I want to echo. And I might reword it a little bit. Good data storytelling is on the path to good machine learning. Guys, we really, what Donabel was saying there is so important, that data can't speak to normal people, and we're not normal. We have to be bilingual. We have to be able to speak and hear data, and then we've got to be able to translate it to our grandmas. Now, that's a new thing we're saying, but let's point it out. Grandmas are smart. They just get to a point where they don't want to keep up with technology anymore, right? And we're just there to speak grandma level to smart people that don't speak data like we do. But Donabel, I'm gonna shut up now that you've had a break. And you are
Thank you.
doing
I
awesome.
appreciate it.
You are doing awesome.
Yeah, and everybody is in the chat just saying that it's amazing. They really like your presentation.
We love you, Donabel.
and just think about that. You are in your own comfortable classroom with your students. So we are just like them now. So don't.
Oh, you are great.
Oh, thank you. But see, here's the difference. If I'm in a class, they have to pay attention because it might go into their exams. But in this class, you don't have to.
Yeah, but
Anyway.
that is the point actually. That nothing is depending on for us. Nothing is depending on this session, but you see that's why the interest is more and the attention is more, and it's free. I mean, freely flowing. So I think you got even more attention in a different level from
true.
us,
And you're doing
and also
well.
support.
You're
And
doing very
support.
well. Let me echo. You're doing very well. Please carry on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm a little bit less nervous now. Thank you. So this is one slide that I show my students. I'm actually just quite curious. What do you think I'm trying to tell them with this slide?
Basically,
This
these are the
seems to
actions to link to data. What you have to consider and how to deal with data, basically.
What
Right?
as well, what kind of things you can do with it, and also is the process of when you play with data. Basically, why do you use it for? How to use it as a powerful tool to back up your opinions.
And Amy also says in the chat how to tell story around data. Perception, possibility for data.
I think it's the pseudocode of processing data.
I guess it's kind of a pseudocode and processing data. Yeah, so I think for me personally in my classes, the reason I show this, a lot of my classes are either 12 weeks or 14 weeks long, sometimes 15 weeks long. But what I want them to get out of the class or the course is to be able to see data differently and think about data differently. Because a lot of times when we talk about data, when I say data, it sounds like cold, hard facts. Like that's the truth, that's infallible, that's invincible. But the reality is there's so many more facets around data. We have to think about the data. We also have to critique data. We should not be afraid to question the data. Just because it's in a data set does not necessarily mean it's correct, doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth. We also want to be able to understand data, and that's always going to be a cycle. You're going to have to visualize it maybe, and you're also going to have to communicate data. So again, I think that's what I want a lot of my students to be able to do is to really just think more broadly and even more deeply about the data and to be able to question it when it's appropriate. So I want to kind of jump into the introduction to Tableau. So what is Tableau? Tableau is a software package, and their motto is they want to help people see and understand data. And I think this is genius marketing on their end, because that's how I think of Tableau, especially having used it for a few years. It helps me see the data. It also helps me understand the data. I'm a very visual person. I would draw, I would write things, I would have a mind map because it helps me understand the data. And I feel like Tableau does do that for me personally. And it might be different for different people. Now, before I do a demo on Tableau, I think we need to ask the question, well, why? Why do we even need to visualize? Why do you need to see the data? I'm curious to see how many people are familiar with this. This is called the Anscombe's Quartet. Have you seen this before? Have you encountered this before?
Yeah, it's basically showing if you have an average of information, if you're showing averages, it hides a lot of information within what you're looking at. So if you take the average, they all have the same path, but if you take the data, they all show different.
Exactly. So the Anscombe's Quartet, what it's trying to demonstrate is right now what you have are 4 sets of X and Y values. They're random values. They don't really mean anything at this point. But if we simply look at statistics, summary statistics or basic statistics, you're going to find that the average is the same for all four. Variance, same for all four. Correlation, regression line, the equation, all of them are the same for 4 sets. So if we're simply looking at descriptive summary statistics, we might make a conclusion that, oh, we have to do the same strategy for all 4. But the reality is, when you start visualizing data, you're going to see some of the nuances. So even if the descriptive statistics tell you, hey, yeah, the average is this, but when you see the data, you're going to see maybe different behaviors, different patterns that might influence your strategy. So for example, if this is marketing and I have 4 sets of customers, depending on behavior, if I only rely on descriptive statistics, I might say, okay, I have this like 1 blast email because it will work for all of them. But the reality is maybe some customers might want phone calls. Some customers might want promo codes. Some customers might want in-person visits. So again, it just helps us understand the data, and it complements. It's not a replacement, but it complements a lot of the other analysis that we do. So Anscombe's quartet is usually used for justifying why we need to visualize data. And I think it was mentioned in the chat before, everything that we do, at least this is my perspective. So a lot of the things that I'm going to say, they're my personal opinion and based on my personal experience. And it may not be applicable to everybody. But in my experience, all our work with data will be for nothing if we cannot communicate them. So it is really a way for us to let people know, what does this mean? So again, even if I'm doing a whole bunch of statistics and I tell people that's the average, this is the median, this is the mode, but if they don't know how it applies to them or how it's relevant to them or significant to them, it's not going to be actionable. So we need to be able to communicate. And one global language that we know is looking. When we look at pictures, regardless of what the characters are, could be English, could be in Chinese characters, could be in any characters, but people tend to understand a little bit better. So visualization tools like Tableau help in this fashion. So before the demo for Tableau, some field notes. So I'm gonna lay it out up front for those of you who are maybe going to try Tableau after or working with Tableau now, but just some field notes when you're using this tool. It's a highly drag and drop tool. If your tools that you're using right now use a lot of like menu items, you may need to unlearn some of that when you're working with Tableau. It's easier to drag and drop a lot of things in Tableau. Also, Tableau being a visualization tool, they use a lot of visual cues. And a lot of these visual cues are very subtle. So you may just need to be like more observant about what might have changed, what icons have changed, what colors have changed, because a lot of those mean something in Tableau. Now, also the one thing I've learned in Tableau is in the past, I have to plan everything out. I need to know what my headers are. I need to know what the fields are. I need to know what the chart is going to look like, because it's such an investment in time and effort. But with Tableau, you can try something, and if it doesn't work out, undo it. Or if it doesn't work out, redo it, because the time investment is not going to be the same. And as far as Tableau is concerned, there's a lot of different kind of nuances and shortcuts. It's really practice. If you use Tableau often, a lot of it will be muscle memory. And I think that takes you a long way if this is a tool that you're going to be using kind of long term. Okay, what I'd like to do is a demo. So at any point, if you have any questions, please ask. But this is what Tableau looks like. And again, if you are students in a university, in a college, you should be able to get a 1-year license for students. Or if you're using this, if you're an instructor, you can also get licenses for your students or for your labs with Tableau for teaching. But this is what Tableau looks like. And in here on the left-hand side, these are all of the different kind of data sets that you can connect to. It's not very different from other tools because there's a variety of data sets you can connect to. But one thing that I truly like in Tableau is there is just such an abundance of data sets. You have Google Sheets, you have Google Analytics, you have big data, you have Snowflake, which is a cloud data warehouse, any of those. Tableau can very, very easily connect to any of them. But for this particular demo, I'm just going to connect to a simple data set. and it's called Superstore. So for those of you who have Tableau or have used Tableau, Superstore is kind of a classic data set. It's just a slightly modified version. But in here, it's an Excel file. I can either connect to it from the left-hand side, or I can simply drag files over to the Tableau desktop. So if I drag this over, and I think what I'll do is I'll try to open this Excel file up first. Let me see that. And if you need me to stop if I'm going too long, please also let me know. Let me just quickly open up the Excel file. I've named this presentation as Table to Tableau, and it's mostly because usually we come from a tabular format. A lot of businesses rely on tabular format, tabular data, wanting to be able to see the exact numbers, but sometimes it is helpful to visualize the data a little bit differently. So this Excel file, there's nothing special about it. I think I have a few thousand rows in here, but it's kind of your typical, tabular data. You have columns, you have all the fields, all the rows, all different kinds of data points. But the challenge with a data set like this is one glance, I have no idea what this tells me. I don't even know what my total sales are. And sometimes, so Excel is a very powerful tool, but it also, in a way, it's also a little bit scary for the non-technical person. So again, there are going to be pros and cons in using some of the tools. But in a tool like Tableau, so if, for example, I wanted to take a look at this tab, it's going to pull all that data. It's going to give you a preview. And then Sheet, as far as Tableau is concerned, it's actually called a chart as well. What you're going to be working with in Tableau is what you call a canvas. So think of canvas as this like blank, it's a blank slate. And what you're really doing is you're painting your numbers. You're painting your data. We're drawing. This is really the whole premise of Tableau. You're just simply drawing. You're visualizing that data. So in here, again, there's also no wrong choice, no wrong decision, at least, especially when you're just discovering what your data is all about. So for example, if I drag and drop, I might come up with many different things. So if I drag over something that's called category, it also is very responsive. It tells you already what's there. And for now, again, for this demo, I'm just gonna start looking at different kinds of charts. So if, for example, I'm curious about sales, again, 2 drags, I have something in here. And again, it's very low investment in terms of time. If I realize, oh, that's not what I want, I didn't mean it to be a category, but I meant it to be market. It's just a simple replacement. But try doing this in another tool. You would probably have to do another build. You might compile. You might need to change 100 lines of code. But in Tableau, it's fairly instantaneous, which is a good thing. So let me just go back to subcategory. So in here, that subcategory, a lot of them are drag and drop or just one click of a button. In here, there's a lot of quick shortcuts. So this one is called a quick sort. So if I sort something, hey, I can see, phones. Phones is my top selling product. But then I can also start interlaying additional items. So for example, if I'm also interested in profit, there are, when you're drawing, there are different things you think about your drawing. It's the shape of your drawing, the color of your drawing, maybe the gradient of the colors of your drawing, the size of the drawing, maybe labels in your drawing. And this is what Tableau calls the marks, the properties of those. So if I want to change the color of these bars, there's a color in here. Again, kind of think you have like this paint and you're just painting over it. So in here, if I want to change this to orange, I can change everything to orange. But I can also make them data-driven. So for example, if I want profit to be reflected in color, then I can drag that. I don't have to change all the colors at the same time. And in here, this is a very different perspective of our chart. Before, without the color, again, we're probably looking at it, phones is my best-selling product, but having profit in here, again, very different perspective. And again, it's in a way, it's low investment. It allows you to explore your data a little bit more. And in here, it's very easy to slice and dice the data. So when we talked about descriptive summary statistics, this is your descriptive summary statistics. But if you want to see how they may be different, for example, if I want to see that by market, I can simply take the market from this sidebar and I can drag it over. I can put it in columns, see what it looks like. I can put it in rows, see what it looks like. So again, there's many different variations. And if it's not right, if it doesn't look right, if it doesn't feel right, you could always take it out or undo. So in this case, again, I think we can see consistently, overall tables not doing very well, and in all the markets not doing very well. I'm going to create one more chart. And then, so let's say we want to have some kind of a scatter plot. I want to see, sales with profit. And I might want to take a look at this from the lens of a product, like all of my products. What are the sales? What are the profit? So in this case, I can take my my product. So let's say product ID. I can split up this one chart. And again, all of a sudden, in 3 clicks, I see that there is an outlier in here. Now, what is an outlier? An outlier is something that's different, starkly different from the rest of your data. But one thing that I do hear, especially when we're cleaning up data, I do hear a lot of people and students will say, oh yeah, that's outlier, let's remove it. And I always caution my students, not yet, not necessarily, because we don't know. If you just simply remove it with an assumption that it's incorrect, you might be missing something. So you still need to find context. Maybe it is an outlier, but maybe the treatment might be a little bit different. Instead of removing it, you might need to analyze it separately. So don't just assume that it is just bad data. Or for example, if this is an error with your instrument, let's say if you have a sensor and it's not performing correctly, you also want to highlight that because that also kind of affects your business. But anyway, so again, in here, it's just a very simple scatter plot. And usually for scatter plots, we want to kind of make some adjustments to the color, to the transparency, just so we can see where the density is or the clusters are. And I want to go back to this chart, and I'm going to just remove the market. What I also want to showcase at this point is just, I'm going to create a very simple line chart. So in here, I have an order date, and maybe I want to see sales over time. And very simple line chart. Within Tableau, I can embed charts inside charts. So for example, phones, if I want to see what the sales of phones are over time, I can go to this tooltip. So in this tooltip, I can insert one more chart. In here, insert, there's a sheet, and I should rename, please, if you're using Tableau, rename all your sheets. Don't do as I do as I say. But in here, sheet 3 was meant to be my line chart. And again, kind of very quickly, I can see, okay, well, that's the trend for those particular subcategories. Again, it's kind of fairly easy to set some majority of the things up. Where Tableau gets more complicated is when you need to do complex calculations. But 80% of what you need to do, you can probably do with a lot of these simple actions. The other thing that I do appreciate with Tableau when you're creating a new sheet is it will already geocode your data. So even if you don't have latitude or longitude, you can simply just map it. And I've also had an experience before where I had to map this in a different tool, and I basically had to grab all the latitudes and longitudes to be able to map it. But in Tableau, you don't have to, because when you install it, it installs a database in your machine that has millions and millions of latitudes and longitudes. But again, if I just wanted to display it, I can kind of see, okay, this is all of the areas that I have sales in. If I want to take a look at profit, maybe make some adjustments. Again, very simple actions can lead to insights already. Now, I do want to wrap this up. I want to be able to put some time in for questions if there are any questions. And I'm so sorry. I said I was going to monitor the chat, but I wasn't able to. So I'm going to catch up after. But in terms of community and resources, there are so many resources in Tableau. It's a very tight-knit and also very nurturing community. So there's a Tableau forum, there's the public gallery, there's a resume gallery, there's a lot of things that are happening within Tableau. So if you want to learn Tableau, there are opportunities and there are resources. And also, in addition to that, if you're looking for something to do every day of the week, and if you want to integrate Tableau, it's almost every day that there is something. There's Makeover Monday, there's Tableau Tip Tuesday, there's Workout Wednesday, there's Think Data Thursday. I don't know if they have anything for Friday yet, but there is Sports Viz Sunday. And for those of you who are, in higher, sorry, not higher ed, but let's say nonprofit organizations, volunteer organizations, there's also Viz for Social Good, and they've done a lot of work with United Nations and UN Health. And I just want to cap this with what I learned working with Tableau or data. I think working with data is fun, but you might question my definition of fun, but I find it fun. And I also find that communication is key. Again, at the end of the day, we need to tell our audience why this matters. And sometimes we have to change the way we talk to them. So your audience will be different. So maybe it's the same message, but if I'm delivering it to a group of high school students and a group of university students and a group of stakeholders who are executives, that tone, the narrative, the terminology, they will all change, the examples will change. And also purpose matters. So the other thing that I do see in the Tableau community is I see a lot of people very, very talented and very artistic. And I wish I had a little bit more artistic side in me or artistic gene. But usually for businesses, it's more formal, just more formal dashboards. And also I think one thing that's important is it's not everything. Ben Jones has a book called Avoiding Data Pitfalls. There is a data reality gap. And it's important for us to remember that whatever you see in your data set, that's not the whole truth. Let's say if I'm collecting information about crime, I'm analyzing crime, I'm making recommendations, I still need to remember that there are probably crimes that are not reported. There are probably crimes that are misreported. So always remember, it's one piece of the puzzle. It is one perspective, but there might be other things that may affect the way you analyze and interpret the data. And the final is it's not for everyone. Some people will love Tableau, some people will hate Tableau, some people will compare Tableau with everything else, and that's totally fine. We're all entitled to tools that we want to use. The organizations, what's available for them. I think at the end of the day, tools are a means to an end, and it shouldn't deter you from working with data. If it's Tableau, if it's Power BI, I think ultimately the core is analyzing the data, communicating the data, making a difference. And that's it. I think I'm going to end there.
Magdi, can I go first? Because I've got a burning question. Yeah. Thank you, Magdi. So Donabel, excellent presentation. Or maybe I should call you Sequel Bell. Okay, and no worries about keeping up with the chat. Count that as our job. And we were answering questions for you in the chat. But it would be good if you could review them for us here in a little while. But okay, Greg and I, and Guy too, we've been working on we're always looking for holes in the space, saying, okay, what's not being emphasized that should be? And I really want to test these things with you. And there's no wrong answer, but I think we're going to feel the same on this. So if a machine learning engineer or a data scientist, 80% of our work is what you do all the time. I mean, really, what we're doing before we get to the very end point, before we start applying algorithmic models, is what you're doing. And we're starting to realize, oh, if we go about that 80% the right way, there's much we should be communicating back to the organization before we get to the predictions. In other words, our best machine learning development is going to come from good data storytelling also. Now, I see you nodding your head agreeing with that. Here's where it gets to a detailed question, because I was pretty sure you'd agree with that. It seems like, from my understanding of these tools, and Jonathan, thanks. Yeah, this isn't Tableau versus Power BI versus Google Data Studio. They're all going to work somewhat similar. So you're going to have preferences for one over the other. But the point being, my understanding, these will automate, these will make dashboards living, because you can take the data in on an ongoing basis. You can monitor various statistics to see if something's shifting with the data, if there's a concept shift, a data drift. You can look for all those things, but it strikes me that could also be a pipeline feed to your production model. Now, that may be harder for you to answer. I mean, in the sense of, since we have to look at an ongoing input to our models, seems like you could use one of these as a front end tool. It's a dashboard for us monitoring these models that we're actually using. Sorry for my background noise. Bye-bye.
No worries.
Is this making sense, Donabel? Do you see why I'm asking? In other words, okay, you're a Pythonista and you always use Python for everything. You're diehard, but that doesn't mean you couldn't use Tableau or a Tableau-like tool as a great front end to your machine learning work, correct?
Yeah, and I think maybe to add to that, at least in where I work, I still feel that I'm not a domain expert. So I may know what the data looks like right now, but I'm also not discounting the fact that maybe data that comes tomorrow is incorrect, and I might need more eyes on the data. So it's always going to be this ongoing process of data quality and data governance, and having a tool like Tableau that is more externally facing rather than just, it might be both internal and external, but so it might be for us as the data audit, data quality, but it's also for the stakeholders so that they're aware. Because if this is a data quality issue, we basically need to ask their support as well in how we can clean that data kind of moving forward, because it might require investment, might require that, maybe we need to change the way we put data in. Instead of typing things in, maybe it has to come automatically from somewhere that it's more validated. So yeah, I totally agree.
And I totally agree with what you're saying. It's a chance to give the organization to tell you, we'd kind of like you to take this turn or that turn, or look at this in addition. Oh, we didn't really care about that, but we really cared about this. That frequent feedback from the organization on the work that you're doing. I love it, Donabel. Thank you.
And I think maybe just one more thing. So I work very closely with George Ferrican. So in LinkedIn, some of you probably know George. He is my director, so he's my boss. So he's like the data quality person. And nothing drives data quality more than having stakeholders look at the data. The moment they see it and it drives their metrics, way off, they care. So having that visual also helps with that message.
Excellent. No, that's good to hear. And I hope you'll be able to come the Saturday that we'll have George here in the near future. Of course, we had to have you before him.
Yeah, no, I better come, otherwise I might get fired.
No. Back to you, Magdi. Magdi, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. I would just like to ask Donabel's opinion about my view, how I see Tableau, because I think some of the people may think the Tableau is like for dummies, in brackets. I mean, that it simplifies so much. I mean, if you are coming from a tech background and you are really concentrating and focusing on tech and Python and machine learning and so on, they might think that, yeah, it is so easy. You just click here, drag and drop and so on. And I just wanted to point out that this is not the case. You really have to understand the whole structure behind, because maybe this is what Donabel showed. This is the surface and the easy features, for example. But when you really get in an advanced level or even an intermediate level, there are a lot of things you have to learn to utilize your chances with the Tableau, basically. So there are parameters, there are LODs, there are a lot of features. You really have to learn how to use it. Otherwise, you stay a very basic level. And it takes time, and it takes a lot of practice. And the good thing, what also Donabel said, that everything is about experiencing and exploring, and you will find your way out. That was one thing how I see Tableau. Secondly, I think, and this is why I like Tableau, not because it's fancy and you can do a lot of things, but this is kind of a creative tool for me compared to Python, where I can tell my own story, with my own style, because you can bring your own personality to it with your own design. And the truth is the same. I mean, you can do with different tools almost, similar things, and you can get to the same conclusion. This is what I mean. But how you are telling your story and how you get to the results and the outcome of analyzing the data, it Tableau gives so much or so many way to present it, and it depends on your own character and personality, how you want to do it, and what kind of design or what. And it's not only about what is your question, it is more that how you want to present it, your story. And the good thing is that you can make it dashboards, first of all, so you can put all the charts together in a nice dashboards with a narrative. You can link it, you can put your URL links, images, everything. Plus, from these dashboards, you can even make it to the next level. You can make stories where you can really build up step by step in a very professional way your presentation, for example, for stakeholders. And obviously this is how I see it, that it gives you the business aspect of data analysis and presentation, so the storytelling, much more than, for example, with Python. I can also do things with Python, obviously, but not in the same way, and not so effective time-wise as well. Also, if I think about the prep builder, cleaning the data, for example, it is much easier to do things than with Python, for example. So this is how I see that it makes just easier for me to express kind of myself as well in a way. So it is for extrovert people also to use it in a presentation. I don't know how you see it.
No, I totally agree with you. So my background prior to Tableau was really a lot of programming and a lot of SQL. So coming into Tableau, I think I was arrogant enough to think that, oh yeah, I can do it because I'm so technical, right? But it requires a different set of skills. I wish Gio was here, because it's just like soft skills too. Like, just because I'm technical doesn't mean I can master the soft skills. It's a very different set of skills that are complementary. So I definitely don't think that, oh yeah, it's like a Mickey Mouse program or a Mickey Mouse tool. I personally, I don't think that. One of the other things that Tableau, what they want to do, especially with Tableau Public, you're going to see Viz of the Day, a lot of people creating Vizes. It's almost the same way that a lot of people are familiar with word processing editors now. How many people here don't know how to use Word? A lot of people probably know how to use Word. Eventually, when I believe one of the goals is for everybody to be comfortable working with data. It's not this specialized thing that only, really technical people can do, because the reality is each one of us, we have all our own kind of domain experts. And I just want to leave with one example. And I know Ugochukwu, did I pronounce that right? Ugochukwu, I see your hand. But just one thing that I did want to mention. So I had a cohort who are, they're in healthcare. A lot of people in healthcare, they care about caring about people. They care about treating people. Trying to introduce a tool to an audience who's not very technical is very hard. So So Tableau was definitely a challenge for them. So I definitely, again, what I wanted to just emphasize is it's all relative. And I remember one conversation with one of my students. I basically told her, you know, it's okay. It's normal. If I'm introduced to a new tool right now, I'd probably be really nervous. I'm going to be, you know, very anxious about it. But it's just like me. Like if somebody tries to teach me how to put a vaccine on to somebody else, it's probably so elementary for them. It's probably something that they just know. Even when they're sleeping, they can probably put a vaccine, but I can't do it. So in the same, I'm kind of just putting myself in their shoes. Whatever's elementary for them is probably so hard for me. So I think that's the way I see these tools. I don't know if that made sense, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think Ugo wanted to ask something.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Donabel. You see, it wasn't very bad after all. It was great. It was amazing.
Thank you.
All right, so for me, this is it's one of my strong suits, BI, and yeah. Okay, personally, I'm just going to talk about 2 minutes. I'm going to try to make it very brief. Like I tell my friends and any other person that I come in contact with, it's most times not a case of is it Tableau versus Power BI or Click? Is it a case of the truth is this: we will always need every one of them. Always need every one of them. This is why, like I always say, Microsoft didn't need to create Power BI, really. What was the selling point of Power BI? Now, sometimes we get to analyze some Excel documents and then they end up becoming as big as I have one somewhere about 200 MB of Excel, as in the Excel file is about 200 MB. And you get to analyze and run some stuff. Now, you want to share the insights you've gotten from that analysis. What that means is that you have to send that 200 MB file to everybody who wants to benefit from the analysis, or you create a dashboard, copy it, paste, convert to PDF, and then. So Microsoft decided, you know what, let's create something that can allow people share this data without having to transfer the data set along the whole 200 MB stuff. So that was how the Power BI thing came on board. But then, Power BI, because, I mean, it's a business tool, more emphasis is being placed on the people who are paying for it. That there's the free one, which is the Power BI desktop, but then there is the one you have to pay for, which is the Power BI service, and this is one of the things that, I am always like concerned about, because when you try to analyze data and you have to spend a lifetime or a lifetime of savings to try to get your analysis to, it sets up a barrier to entry for a lot of people, So that is usually the allure for open source tools like Python and its many libraries, because for organizations that do not have that kind of amount to lay out for Tableau and Power BI and co, we need to look for some open source data analytical tool for them, So that's basically it. And I love Power BI, I love Tableau, I love Python, but when it comes to pricing, and it's like a trade-off. You have to trade off, the ease of Power BI and Tableau for the, let me use the word, complexity of Python's visualization tools like Matplotlib and Seaborn and co. Because like Tableau and Power BI, it's just drag and drop interface and all that. But Python, you have to do some coding. So if you don't want to do some coding, then you have to have some money. All right. So that's the way it looks. But it doesn't have to be an either or. We need all. Like for me now, I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I have free access to Power BI, both the service and the desktop. But then there's some analysis that I still want to run, and I think they do better in Python. All right. There are a lot of analysis. For example, if you want to analyze a data set that has about 10 million rows and stuff like that, unless you have a very solid engine, your laptop is a very solid machine, or whatever machine you're working with is very solid, it's going to drag all your system resources, right? But it's not really like that for Python. In fact, for Python, there's some analysis you can run off the fly. And okay, the machine I use most times is this, my 8 gig RAM machine. And when I compare the performance I get with Python and performance I get with either Power BI or any of those other visualization tools, it's always crazy. Python is always faster. I don't know why it happens like that, you know? So like I said, it's for me, it's not like an either or. I try to see how best we can marry all the tools, looking at the advantages that each one of them give. For some is the price point. For some other ones is the fact that, like for Python now, Python is really unlimited in the sense of the fact that you can, for example, if you want to access streaming data, like data from, sorry, like data from a pacemaker, data from something that just comes in streaming form like that, to get an analytical tool like that in Power BI or Tableau can cost you a fortune. But to analyze streaming data in Python is free, you know? So those are the kind of things that we always look at before we say, okay, this is what we, but I mean, they're all amazing tools, all in all. Thank you.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think we have to look at these as kind of complementary tools. There's not one tool that solves all the problems in the world, but also being able to take advantage of what we can, similar to what you said. You know, there's a free version of Tableau if you want to learn Tableau. And I definitely feel that any of the skills that you learn doing the free version of Tableau, like a lot of those are visualization skills that really overlaps between different tools. What I learn about visual best practices will apply regardless of whether I'm using Excel or PowerPoint or Power BI or Python. They are the same principles. When I say audience matters, it matters regardless of your organization, your Microsoft and Amazon. So I totally agree with you.
Just to add something, I think we should also mention that Tableau is linked to Python server,
Yes.
MATLAB. So you have the possibility to integrate your Python codes in Tableau, for example. So there are so many interactions between. So there is one thing. A lot of
Magdi, Power BI is also, in fact, Power BI has our Python integration. In fact, right now, they just released that last month. You can now do Jupyter notebooks right inside your Power BI, as in it's crazy. So there are a lot of people trying to now see how we can fuse both worlds together, the open source world and these, what we have here currently. So it's amazing. Like I said, I love Tableau. Tableau is an amazing tool. I hope Microsoft doesn't catch me saying this, but it's it's amazing.
Yeah, just before we go to Gus with the question, because a lot of people are just wondering Power BI and Tableau, and Jonathan pointed out earlier that this is really a question, R or Python. You know, you have to find your way, which tool matches your need, your purpose, and where do you feel more comfortable to use for data visualization or cleaning, or you can combine things as Amy mentioned as well. So it is really up to you. It is just that it is nice to know about different tools, and then you can pick what you like, obviously. Secondly, I have to say it is a harsh word, because it is also a cost question, to be honest. Because as students, you're really privileged. You can use it for 1 year. Free, and you can learn it. So it is really a good thing from Tableau. But after that, when you are not a student, you have to buy it, and it is costly, and it is compared to Power BI, and that's why a lot of companies go for Power BI, basically because of the cost, unfortunately. But it's like that. But Also, a lot of people mentioned the community behind it, and also Donabel pointed out that what all the events and so on, what's going on with Tableau, it is great. Also, the Tableau conference, the general universal conference once a year, I think, and also the regional. So there is for Europe, there is for Asia, there is for Latin America. So it is great. Plus, what was not mentioned in the chat, there are Tableau users groups. So basically, if you go to Tableau and you search for a user group around in your town or in a region, you will definitely find one. So there are in New York, there are in all over the world, there are groups. And I would highly recommend these groups because they are organizing meetings. Now, everything is virtual, so it is much easier, obviously, but then after the pandemic, you will have the chance also to meet in person, and they are great opportunities to get to know others who are enthusiastic about Tableau. It is a great way to learn from others because during these sessions, usually they share their views and they are discussing, they are asking feedback, for example, they are coming up with the new features with Tableau, explaining that. So it is a nice networking, and it's also a nice learning way, for example. This part, so the community part behind Tableau, it is really great and very powerful, definitely. So that is the only thing what I wanted to add. So then, Gus, is your turn?
Yeah.
Question.
I had a couple of questions, but one question, a personal question. If Donabel, as a part of my role, because I teach and eventually I will be helping my learners with data visualization, and they are expecting me to help them with, but it can be Power BI or Tableau. But as a part of my role, I need to go for a certification in one night or the day because, as I said, like I prefer Tableau because I had experience with Tableau. I mean, I did a course with Power BI. I started to use it, and it's more or less the same. But I mean, if I have to choose, they said like if you have to choose, you need to go for one. So is there any particular certification that you will say that I should go for? Because I understand there are two qualifications for Tableau, but I need to complete one, let's say. I mean, it's not urgent, but I need to go for one in the next 7 months, possibly. Well, my personal opinion is, again, Tableau is just fantastic. I mean, and the things I did with it, when I mentioned the story of when I lost my job, my previous job, one of the things that I showed them in order to change the sales strategy, it was because I started to display the data on the map. I mean, they were able to. They were like, the numbers are not working. I mean, sales are going down. But what was happening? The sales development managers, they were basically sitting in their comfort zone. We have an area of coverage, and they were working just on where they use it to get all the numbers, and they were not moving around. So when I display it on Tableau, which is a feature that you can have with Power BI as well when you go on maps. But yeah, it's quicker. People think that answering the comment you mentioned about is something for dummies. No, you need to have a previous background in data. Cleansing is really important for Tableau. I mean, if your data is dirty, and if you don't clean your data before you load it, I mean, in that case, when Donabel was using that file, that file is clean already. But imagine like playing with a data set that is dirty. There is a module in Tableau that you can clean it, and also, as you say, you can connect it to Python. And the new feature, because I have access to the new Tableau version, that Einstein is just unbelievable. I mean, what they did there was, I said, like, wow, done. I mean, yeah, I know, and I'm learning Python as well, Hugo. So I'm gonna be a Python praiser shortly. But yeah, my personal opinion is Tableau. Yeah, it's really. I can see you. A nice car. I can sell you a nice car. Okay. Dirty data. Yes, so that's my point. That's my question, Donna. Any particular one of the two certification do you recommend to go for?
I'm going to take hopefully a politically correct approach.
Okay.
I always say, like, it depends on you. Like,
Okay.
I think go for the certification on the tool that resonates more with you right now, because you're gonna have to prepare for it. You're gonna need to know the ins and outs. And usually certifications, they're designed to test you on a breadth of features. So so there may be things that you don't really use in Tableau, and you're going to be forced to learn them. So I think it depends on the tool that you want to learn more deeply about. I haven't taken the Power BI certification. So also, to be fair, I haven't taken those. I've taken the Tableau ones. But for me personally, I've found fulfillment doing those exams. They're nerve-wracking, like 60 minutes, 30 questions. You have to be really fast. It's really a lot of muscle memory. But it's also after the exam, and if you find out that you pass, because sometimes you don't, like I don't sometimes, but if you find out you pass, there's such a fulfillment in almost confirming that you do know what you think you know. But it's also, again, just as a personal thing, it also doesn't mean, like, I'm certified in Tableau right now, but I'm not an expert. I just happen, sometimes I just happen to be prepared at that time, or I happen to be lucky at that time. So again, I kind of pass that back to you. It depends on what you want to learn.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know that there are two certifications, right? One is like 3. Okay.
Yeah, there's a specialist, certified associate, and certified professional.
Okay.
But guys, do you really need this certification?
Yeah.
Or the badge is not enough?
No. As a part of my role, I mean, I know how to use Tableau because I used it for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have this company is asking me to have a certification. So I need to go for one.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it an answer to your question?
But as an advanced,
of course.
I think if you're looking towards Tableau as an advanced user, if you've been using Tableau for a few years, I would say skip the first one. Go to the second one, which is the certified associate.
Perfect.
Also, Gus, are they sponsoring?
Oh yeah, they're gonna pay for it.
So if they're paying for it, then if you have the choice, go for what you want. And if you don't have the choice, then go for what they want you to use if they're paying for it.
Yeah, they're paying for it. And they are paying for this license that I have. So, I mean, I could easily go for the desktop one, but I wasn't sure if because I know that Donabel has a certification in Tableau. So I want to hear from her experience which one does she recommend to go for.
Does anyone else have a certification in any of the others, in Power BI or QLIC or anything? No.
Yeah. It's just
Gus, you might want to reach out actually to some of the people who are like, you know, Kate Strackney and people, and ask her, because she deals with so many of the visual data things. You might want to ask her, just from the perspective of you know, businesses, which one is more in use. I mean, I know that people have been talking about Power BI being very popular because of the price.
Yeah.
But maybe segment your market and say, well, what size organization am I going to be working in going forward? And then based on that, figure out, based on the size of organizations, what that type of organization is using in general. And Kate might have the answer to that question.
I'm going to contact her. Yeah, because I did a few courses in Power BI recently. One of them is a Microsoft certified. But again, I mean, when I started to learn about Power BI, because I have the experience with Tableau, I was like, okay, I mean, it's more or less the same, you know. But yeah, I prefer to go for Tableau because I'm a Tableau lover, to be honest. But yeah, I'm gonna ask her. Thank you.
Okay, then the next was in row George. George had a question. Is he still here? Yep. So George, it's your turn.
Hey, Donabel, very lovely presentation. I was just thinking like the visualization is just on another level, and it's like watching a movie, but data is the characters in that movie, and I think it's very nice. Mine was just a comment on because I also like got a lot of that Python, R, Power BI. Uh, Now it's Power BI and Tableau. And my opinion is like if you can learn both, like I think it'll be the best, because like it gives you more freedom to decide on what is best for. Because like the thing with tools is like there's no one good tool for everything. So even like if you look at if I go to Ogochoku point about Tableau being expensive, like if you look at it, it's like because the data that they intend to process is mostly money data. So like it's data that's going to make a company more profitable. It's data that is going to make a company maybe have a better edge on other things. So like if you think about where they're coming from, it's like they're targeting a market which basically has the money to get it. But as a student, if you look at it, maybe it's a bit unfair. But also like from a student point of view, like the more you learn open source technology, then it gives you more freedom to actually like maybe even contribute to making that tool better. So like if you look at it's mostly based on maybe Python. So if you understand the Python concept of how they arrive to maybe a visualization technique, then you're at a better place to even contribute to that. And also like maybe somebody like Kuchuku being a certified trainer for Power BI, you're also more likely to get free packs. And so that's maybe my contribution to it. Like maybe don't limit yourself to a tool. Like we are going into an age of generalization. Like the more general you are, the more things that you can do, then the more power that you have, instead of just maybe focusing on generalizing. I think that's my contribution.
No, I totally agree with you. I think it is definitely beneficial to learn more about different tools. And I think in terms of prospects, I think especially eventually, if some of you will go into consulting to different different organizations will have different needs. And if you know more about kind of the pros and cons of different tools, you're going to be able to advise better. Because you can give them the breadth of the differences, kind of the pros and cons, what other organizations see, like where things might fit better or not. Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree.
Okay, Abhikam had also a question. You are muted, Abhikam.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Alrighty. Thank you, guys. I'm really thrilled to be here. Actually, it's been I've been trying to find time to join this since Tom sent me the invitation and all that. I think that was 2-3 weeks ago. And though I do have I came in late actually, but I do have a couple of questions, especially towards my career path. Just a brief synopsis of how and where I am today. Just finished my master's May 16th last month or last 2 months. And thank you guys. So, and it was actually in from Boston University in applied data analytics. So last 2 weeks, again, I did machine learning certification, which the specialization certification, which I did pass that. So I went in and started studying for the big data analytics, failed with 12 points. So rescheduled it, rescheduled it for rescheduled it for 2nd of next month. So my point is, my question is this: for someone like me that is trying to break into the data science path. How can I actually actualize this goal? Not sure if
Yeah, we heard you. We heard you. I think we were waiting for Donabel to respond. You know, Donabel is our host today. Yeah. So Donabel, that's for you.
Thank you, Ugochukwu. I'm gonna keep on mentioning your name until I get it right, the pronunciation right. So for me, at least what I mentioned to my students, and again, this is probably a very limited perspective, and I kind of look to everybody else in this family. Getting a break may mean getting the first opportunity or an appropriate opportunity. So sometimes, so at least for example, in the past, I teach people SQL. They want to be database administrators, but the reality is they will not be database administrators right away. So sometimes you just need to get your foot in the door. And there are so many things that come out of relationships that you cultivate within organizations with people that you meet. So it may mean that get that first opportunity that may pave the way for the next stone to step on, and yeah, I think it also gives you a reality of what it is to work in that particular organization, because sometimes we romanticize, oh, working for this company, this will be so awesome, but that kind of gives you a more realistic perspective. And again, I think for me, the relationships that you build now and maybe within the organizations that you're part of will probably pave the way. And I think for me personally, that's what happened. Like the jobs that I've applied for, they were never posted in LinkedIn. The deadlines have already passed, and it's just, hey, somebody prods you and asks you, are you interested? So
actually mentioning that now, I recently, actually, I'm currently a data analyst with my current position in Austin, Texas. So, but I recently got one of my alumni in BU reached out to me from McKinsey. So got an internship at McKinsey, but not specifically in data science, is actually in their SOC department, their security and operation department. So as a automation and system engineer. So, but I'm still trying to, put things together as to how that will benefit me in the nearest future. Well, it's a cool company. However, will that be beneficial to me will it take me to my destination, if you may? So that's just the confusion that I would say that I'm just that's going on in my head.
So I know Kim, maybe like
Donabel
Kim
first, I think.
You go ahead, Donabel.
No, I was just gonna say be brave, because a lot of these positions that we see right now, they never existed 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And also when companies see value in you, they may create this position just for you. And sometimes we're that niche. Like you might know data science, but there's something else that you know about that company and they truly value that. They might create this unique position for you. And I think it's a risk for sure. But if you want to try that, I would say be brave. And also really believing in yourself, because if you can demonstrate again that you have value, it may be that company, it might be a different company. And I again, it's kind of a personal belief. I think that will pave the way for whatever that destination is. And I would also say maybe don't think of a destination right now, because we may not know
where the destination.
Yeah,
correct.
Like I never wanted to be in computers when I started university at all. I didn't like it. I was scared. But sorry, Kimberly, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Not at all. Not at all. I think that your feedback is always extremely useful and appreciated. Ebikam, I think a lot of this, I understand where you're coming from, because I remember being young, and I think actually you have such an advantage as a young person at this moment, because there is this nascent field that is just starting, and there is so much possibility. I think that if you you have to think about what your why, your personal why. Why do you want to do what you're doing? If you
Correct.
want to get access to people, if you want to look good on paper, like you have to think about what it is that you're trying to achieve right now. If you want to achieve trying new things out and seeing where this could go because you don't know yet, then go for the best thing right in front of you. You know what I
Correct.
mean? Like you don't want to sit there and go, well, I actually want to focus in on this thing of machine learning because this is most fascinating to me, if that's not a practical thing on the day-to-day basis. Like there are things that I love about artificial intelligence that are not going to employ me. I'm not going to get a job doing them. But you have to really be comfortable with yourself and your own decisions. Don't do something for status if you don't really care about status.
Correct.
Don't do something in a field if it doesn't represent you, because in the end, you're just wasting your own time. But, like take some time with yourself and
Correct.
think about how you want the world to be and how you want it to be for you. And what that looks like right now is all that matters, because afterwards you're going to learn from that and move on.
True.
So good luck and congratulations. You're doing great.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I should also like to relate to Kim and saying the same. I mean, yeah, on the same basis that, just think about the staircase which is in front of you. Do you have to always know the destination, the top?
Not really.
Not always. You
not
have
always.
to know. You have to know the foundation,
the bigger
basic,
picture. Correct.
And the foundation is you.
Correct.
At who you are and what makes you happy and why do you get up in the morning and go into a company to work? Do you like it? You don't like it? I mean, McKinsey is a gorgeous company, but maybe not for you. Maybe it is for you, but you have to decide. Nobody can give you an advice if it's a good decision to make an internship there or not, or go to a different company. The only thing is, don't let yourself to be blind because of a big company name or a reputation of the company, because you can feel poor at that company as well. Correct. Despite how good they do. If you don't feel that you fit into that company, if you are not a good match from your side, even they say that you are a good match for them, there is a mismatch.
True.
So
absolutely.
it is much more important that you know what do you want to do, who you are, and obviously where you want to go. But between the two, so where you want to go, so on the top of the staircase, there are the steps.
Correct.
And do you want to say for the next 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, which steps you have to make? Do you have to limit yourself?
That's a question I have to answer.
Do you want to stick to these steps, or you wanna go with the flow? I mean, in a way, a flow that you have your direction, but if you stick to your steps already now and limit yourself, you will not see the other chances around you. Correct. Because your peripheral vision will be blocked by you, not anyone else. So you will limit your own opportunities.
You need to start writing books. Do you have one, actually? that was a good explanation. I love that. That got me thinking.
Okay, great. That was my point. The bottom line that you think.
Right, yeah? Right. Absolutely.
Okay, good. I'm happy about it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, Kim, you had a question, right? You raised your hand.
I did. I had a question for Donabel. Okay. So Donabel, I am one of your biggest fans. I'm one of your biggest admirers, and I admire you so much because, like me, you're very you don't like tooting your own horn, and I think it's something that is it's increasingly frowned upon by a lot of people. People say you should always shout the loudest and say all your skills and be able to represent yourself. And I personally appreciate how subtly charming and intelligent and wonderfully able you are to communicate your skill sets. And I think that for a lot of people, there is a fear of needing to try and do everything and trying to achieve everything. And so I wanted to ask you what advice you would give to young people to help them understand what is the most important thing to get out of Tableau or SQL? Like when you're approaching these things, what's the best way to approach them so that you don't get overwhelmed? Because I think if I were a young person starting out in machine learning, and I mean, I'm starting in machine learning, and so I myself am overwhelmed between the Python and the Tableau and the Power BI because I'm taking all of them. And I find that for me, it always goes back to the logic. It goes back to the computer programming. Everything I do ends up going back to computer programming because that's the way I structure things in my mind. So what would be your advice for someone coming into all of this to say, well, okay, if you're like this is the best way to approach it. And if you're like that, that's the best way to approach it. If you can answer that. I don't know if that's a possible answer.
I think what I usually say is just to try things out. And I know it sounds like unsystematic at all, but until you know more about something, that something sounds so scary. Before I learned Tableau, I was like, oh, wow, I don't know what that is. It's like this magnificent thing that you put in the pedestal. But the more you learn about it, the more you try it. And it could be a personal project. It's not necessarily something that you would showcase all the time, but just to learn more about the product, I think the realization as well is a lot of these software packages, they're also created by humans. They're bugs. It's not about you not learning it. It might be the way the system has been designed. So I think it's just being more comfortable with trying things out, being comfortable in also making mistakes, but also being comfortable in owning those mistakes. So for example, if I'm doing this for my organization and I made a mistake, I have to own that. Like it's like keeping that due diligence and that integrity. Yeah, I think that's what I would do or what I would say. So in the past, when I was teaching SQL, I would definitely recommend students, if you can, when they can, build your own environment. So right now it's so commonplace to have a virtual machine. But the virtual machine is almost like this sandbox, and you become the administrator, which you probably aren't, or you will not be in your organization, because it requires very specific skill sets, very specific experiences. But if you have your own sandbox, you kind of almost play that role. And then you get to see what other people see. You get to experience what other people experience. And now you're more, I guess, fluent in the communication, like even talking to people. It also becomes a window for you to talk to other people. Hey, I was working on this machine, and these are my experiences. So I think that's one. And I think the other thing that I have learned is that I would probably recommend is to present. Make presentations. So I really believe that when you teach somebody else, you will learn and understand it more. Being able to present almost gives you that confidence, and again also gives you that confidence to be wrong sometimes. And I think it's important in organizations to know that, hey, I don't know all the answers all the time, and I could make mistakes. So I think those are the two. I do push my students to do the presentations, but myself, I know I get nervous every time I start. So
thank you. Yeah, I mean, I know for myself, I have my own business, so I use our business all the time. Like that's where I do all of my examples and all of my things, and I project our markets and our suppliers and everything. But I find that that I don't have the problem sets that large organizations have. I have very specific problem sets that are for my size company. And so it's very interesting to me in trying all these different things to go, okay, like for me, there are some that are easier to use than others. And for me, the Python, I just love how you can create things, because as a business person, I only want what I want. I only want what I need. So I think it's an interesting perspective too, that like, if you're starting out and you're learning stuff, to your point, Donabel, of trying everything and seeing what works, I think it's also going back to what Gus was saying. like knowing what you need to have for your job. If you have to get the certification, focusing on that, but always keeping that open learning. I'm learning for the sake of learning open, because that too makes all the difference when you're trying these different things, because you'll explore something and you'll see something like some of the stuff that you introduced in Tableau today, I didn't even know about. Like it's just like, oh, wow, does that work? That's really cool. And I wouldn't know about it because I'm not looking for it. So I think it's great when people try programs for their own needs, because they follow their own path to learning. And then per your suggestion, it probably is great to share it with other people, because if you hadn't shared today, I wouldn't have known those things. So thank you.
And just to add, like, I think my experience in teaching has really opened up a brand new world for me. And I think it's the same with mentoring, because you get to hear, you get to experience where other people are. So for example, I'm not in the financial industry, but every time I listen to Magdi, it's like, oh, maybe that's how it works there, for anybody who's in healthcare. So it almost feels like there's a little bit of immersion in their world, things that I don't think about, all of a sudden I care about, or I think about. So so again, in your business, when you're talking about the forecasting, I'm not in the kind of that, I'm not in retail. I'm actually working in nonprofit right now, but it almost gets me immersed in those and thinking about those problems that they need to solve. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just to add something, I think they just should start with the foundation, that learn how the tool is structured and works in the basics, and then keep up with your curiosity, basically. So exploration, you just try out things. And then the third thing, and I want to refer to Sai, because Sai did a very good post this week. He also mentioned that, you don't have to think about big data sets. You don't have to go to the UN data set and put it in your tool and work with it. Yeah, take your from your own personal life. So Sai is doing, regarding sport activities. I did the same. So with my team, for example, we did a sport challenge for 1 month. And at the end, just for fun for me and curiosity, I just put all the data in Tableau and I show it to my colleagues. They were blown away. They really liked it. And you can start with small things. And then there you can explore, okay, if I click here, there, how can I do? And what I mean under curiosity as well, that when comes up anything, and it doesn't matter if it's Python or it's Tableau or Power BI, when you have an idea that, okay, I want to show this way, and you stuck, obviously, because you don't know the answer, that, okay, what is the code for that? Or how do I do it? How do I create a parameter for that, or LOD in Tableau, for example? Or how can I do this? Then you Google, and then you find your things. And this week I also had, like, somebody asked me to help with Tableau, with a project, and then I said, okay, but I want to do it in geo, how do you call it, geo mapping? Yeah, so with mapping. So I want to put the data on the US map with states and so on regarding the data. I also Googled, and I was so happy, because I find, and this is the way you learn, basically. And that brings you forward and gives the push that, okay, I want to get to the next level. I want to try this way. And then this is how you get your expertise. And by doing and trying and failing, it is very important. You have to fail to push back from the button, to jump again, and then go again and do it again. And next time you are on the next step, and the next level, next level, next level. So don't think about gorgeous data sets or visualization. Start it for yourself. Okay, how do you like it? Are you satisfied? Or can you do this better? If you stuck, Google, but just keep up the motivation to do it, try it out, compare it with other tools you can do. I had an assignment, for example, what I had to submit. I made certain things in Python, and just the comparison, I did it in Tableau, and I combined it. They were just totally nice next to each other. So just be creative and be yourself. What it is interests you, go with that way, and then the knowledge and the skills and the expertise will come by time. Just don't give up. This is what I would say to the young ones. We have still people in the row with questions. I think Yogita was probably the first one, and then Sai is the next one.
Hi, Donabel. It was an awesome presentation. I just have a question. Like this Monday makeover Mondays data set, how are they? Like, are they easy for beginners to try on? And like, how much of time commitment would one need to make a decent dashboard on those data sets? Do you have any idea about it?
That is a great question. I often promote Makeover Monday, but I have to be really honest. I actually don't do the Makeover Mondays. And just to provide context there, I think your question is spot on. Like, how much time do I need, and how do I balance that with the rest of the things that I'm doing? And for me, it's more of a personal choice. And I think for the Makeover Monday, it is really your own personal project. It's up to you how much time you may want to spend on it. But from what I've heard from the Tableau communities, they usually cap it. So maybe in the beginning, you cap it at 2 hours, like 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, depending on what you decide it works for you. And you stop. You stop at the end of that time. And then over the iterations, over the weeks, you're going to find yourself more comfortable, maybe faster, knowing exactly what you need to do. And as I've mentioned earlier, muscle memory goes a long way, because what takes you 5 minutes right now might take you less than a minute next time. So I think, again, I don't do the Makeover Mondays, but I do hear that people do spend anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, and they cap it every week.
So according to you, the best approach would be like the first day when I do it, I build a decent one, and then I keep on iterating and try to improve it, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think it also speaks to a practical application. So in a lot of projects in your organizations, you have a time constraint.
Right.
As much as I'd like to make things perfect, I have a deadline. So I think it's kind of the same thing. You treat it as a project, and you may want to do a second version, a second iteration later on, but at some point we have to know when to stop.
Right. Thank you.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I have a lot of
you
non-answers.
you have a deadline for that, so at some point
Yeah,
you have to
actually-
finish with it.
Actually,
So
that's the thing, because when I start anything, I go like on top of it, like make it perfect and keep on doing it and doing it. So like this thing is like in this week I have to finish it off. So I have a limited time, and I know I have to finish. I want to finish this. So that's a motivation. Like if I get into something like this, I can do it better rather than going on and on and on some personal project, and it goes on forever. So it's like I have this week, I will work on this data set, not an extensive one, but I'll make some decent dashboards just to practice my Tableau, because I did a basic Tableau course, but since I'm not practicing it, I'm like, I don't remember much of it now. So I'm like, maybe if I start this every day, like for 1 hour, if I work on it, maybe by Friday, I should have some decent dashboard ready.
yeah, well, why don't you just test first? I mean, without any submission, for example, you just take the data set, you will work around it. You can do it even for a couple of weeks just to get customized to it.
No. If I
and
do
then
that,
you make it live, and then you submit. After 1 month, you just go every week and do it. And in the meantime, you can always check with your first data set that, okay, how the others are did. You can Google on Tableau Public, where they also present these things, for example. And then you can check the others that how they approached it, for example. So you can make a test phase for yourself, like a month, and then you can participate in the real life kind of competition. If it helps, it's just an idea.
Yeah, that's also a good approach. Thank
It's
you.
up to you. Okay, Sai, your turn.
Hey guys, it was actually awesome for the session and key takeaways, like a lot of many. I want to ask you as a student, as you mentioned, you are teaching many university level students also. So I want to ask as a student, I must admit I'm a great overthinker. I overthink a lot. The reason behind like what it really affects my, whenever I start doing something, it really affects my, that overthinking really affects my day. Like, it's like if I start with some new course and I'm like, oh, that guy didn't speak to me, why didn't he? So just that, and it goes on, and then I'm like, what the hell am I doing over here? I don't need to do this. Why am I doing this? Oh, okay. Is data science even my cup of tea, or is something my core chemical engineering is something which I need to do? Stuff like that, and ultimately I end up doing nothing. Like, it's going on since a while. The only thing which I try to do is like posting. That's something which I only do. But other than that, I'm like, I'm not doing anything. So I really want to ask you, like, what should be the correct approach if I'm doing Tableau, or if I'm doing anything, any course? Like, what should be my mindset, and how can I avoid these things? Like,
I work with a project program manager, and one of his favorite words or terms that he uses is MVP, the minimum viable product. So I feel like maybe when you're approaching this is like, you probably should, not should. I'm very hesitant to use the word should, because it feels like I know what I'm saying, but I may not. But it's, if you set certain objectives for you, and if you know, again, in terms of prioritizing, like the one most important thing that you need to be able to accomplish, let's say day to day, week per week, and then start with those. So let's say if you're saying posting, um, similar to what I've mentioned to Yogita earlier, like allocate time. Like, is it 1 hour and then you post? So for your courses, allocate 1 hour, and then what do you want to accomplish after that 1 hour? And then there's also this concept of atomic habits. You don't have to make a sweeping change. Just commit to one small thing. So it's very, very incremental change. Then eventually it becomes exponential. So it's not so much a burden for you, because you also don't want to burn out yourself. You're going to get deflated if you're like trying to target something so big all the time. So small changes, and also give yourself some slack. It's life. Life happens. There's family, there's friends, there's health, there's everything. So you also have to give yourself some slack and forgive yourself if, I can't make this 1 hour today, or I can't make this 1 hour tomorrow. I think that's what I would say. I don't know if that helps.
I have to interject. Donabel, I'm always reminding my younger friends of this. Please, it's like if you were going to go out and start running or running again, you don't go run a marathon the first day. You maybe run a little bit and walk, and then next week you run a little further in between your walks, and you build up, and understand you are going to get deflated. Take a break, and then but make yourself get back to work when you've recovered. Excellent point, Donabel. I just had to back you up on that.
muted. Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
So one of the things that you mentioned, Sai, which I thought was very, I think it's something that all analytically minded people share, the idea that you're always thinking. And from the way that you were describing the way that you're always thinking, it also sounds like you have a little bit of anxiety, and that you're worried a lot about what other people are thinking around you and what's going on around you. And if that's the case, I would strongly recommend that you also look into ways to manage your overthinking through this. There's a process called dialectical behavior therapy, which basically creates different tools for you to use in social situations that seem overwhelming, where if you're reading it the wrong way, or if you're personalizing something that's in no way personal, it helps you to realize that it's like a trick that your brain does. It's a bad habit, basically. And the only way that you can address it is by identifying it and then sort of retraining yourself to not let that get to you, to not let it make you anxious. Because really a lot of what we do is based on being stuck with the data. And so if you lose the clarity of your mind and you lose the sort of like, okay, where am I going with this? Because I'm worried about all this other stuff going on. You're making your life far more difficult than it needs to be, regardless of whether you want to do data or you want to do the chemical engineering, was it? But you know, whatever you decide that you're going to do, you're letting in all this noise, and you need to silence that noise so that you can focus, and then you'll have a much better sense of what Sai wants, because right now it sounds like Sai's really aware of what everyone else around him is doing. And so maybe it's good to focus more on Sai.
Lot to actually take from. Yeah, I think I'll definitely use this approach, and I'll definitely try to do it. The thing what I do, I end up in going to dad and I'm asking, here I'm stuck. Or people like Valerie or even you, I sometimes ask you and I'm like, here I am. This is what I'm thinking. Please help me. Then dad is like, comments like, oh, this is where you are stuck. He explains me very, very from a beginner, from how a kid, he explains me like a kid. And he's like, no, you are correct. He's also correct, but this is where you are lack. And I'm like, oh, maybe this is what I am. And but it's always like I curse myself a lot. Like after something, if I'm very actually conscious about myself. Like if I say something bad, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done it. So it's like every day I just turns into my mind. I'm like, did I do something wrong? I shouldn't have done. I shouldn't have do that. So I feel I'm very, very on me a lot. And this really affects what I'm doing. I don't know, I might be whatever you call, but this is something which I face a lot of times.
Maybe,
and then yeah.
maybe Sai, just
keep talking.
To make you feel better. It's like, first of all, you're intelligent. Overthinking is part of being intelligent. So there's nothing wrong about that. So like, Dad said something very interesting at the start, like we are not normal people. For you to be able to see, it's maybe a side effect of being intelligent. So like, you're just being a normal person. The overthinking is part of it. But now you just have to control it. Like, think for a person who lifts weights, for example. Now, for an intelligent person, the mind is the most muscle. It's the best muscle they have. And so it's constantly working. So like, think of it of a footballer. He always wants to run. He always wants to keep fit. So as an intelligent person, you always want to have your mind fit. So it's just normal. It's okay. But the people around you might not be like you. So don't try to be like them, because they don't have that. They're not as special as you. So don't try to be like them, because it's not possible for you. You're wired different. So just focus now on kind of channeling that energy in a way that fits you. So if you feel like you want to ask a question, do ask a question. And then maybe if you don't get an answer, leave it pending and do something else. And then if it doesn't, leave it pending, do something else. With time, as you're on maybe the 5th task, you'll actually find the answer for the first task. So also just be okay with that, being special and being intelligent. Be okay with it. It's part of being an intelligent guy. The overthinking, it's always be there. And I'm sure people like that, they've been doing it for ages, and they'll still tell you like there's some things they overthink, but maybe what they've managed to do is to understand that that is them, and maybe that's how they're just wired, and maybe now they can be able to channel that energy. It's not something wrong. It's actually something special. So be proud of it.
What George is trying to say, Sai, is you are crazy. You are crazy with passion to live life well. And because most people around you aren't like that, it's going to drive you crazy. But being cognizant of it will help.
Got it.
Yeah, the most important thing you need to do is stop yourself saying something negative about yourself. There's no reason for that. You said I cut myself down a lot. I get mad at myself a lot. You've got to love yourself. You've got to love yourself so much. When you wake up every day, you've got to go, God, I'm good. You really have to love yourself, because no one is going to love you as much as you have to love yourself. The more you love yourself, the more everyone around you does love you, because they're going to see what you see, because it's going to manifest itself. But if you're constantly putting yourself down, if you're constantly going, why did I say that? So what? You said something. So what? So say everything. Make a mistake. Look at the faces of the people around you if you say something silly and go, oh, okay, I won't do that again. You know, like be like a computer program. Think like a computer. Try and take the emotions out of it and just observe what's going on, and observe yourself. More importantly, if you put yourself down, why are you putting yourself down? When did that start? When did you start looking at yourself in a negative way? Go back and squelch that bug, put that bug out. It's a bad bug. You don't need that. You know, what you need to do is realize that life is a challenge for everybody. And that's okay. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it interesting, you know, and decisions that have to be made, they're just decisions. And maybe they're the right decision, maybe they're the wrong decision, but you won't know until you actually do it. And you won't be able to learn anything until you've actually gone through it. And that's all good. So there's never a reason to go, oh, why did I do that? What a stupid thing to do. I do that too. I was raised sort of like, you know, you idiot, why'd you do that? So I say to myself, you idiot, why did you do that? But you know, that's a choice you make. You make a choice to continue that way of thinking or not. And so as you move forward, every time you say something to yourself, stop, just go, what am I doing? Stop talking to myself, and actually talk to yourself in the third person quietly, please, because other people will look at you otherwise. But do talk to yourself and say, like, what am I doing? Why am I talking to myself this way? And you know, really just watch yourself, observe yourself. You be the analyst of your own self, of your own behaviors, and start checking what you're doing and recording it and watching it and going, hey, wait a minute, why am I being so hard on myself? Look at all my accomplishments. Look at all the things I'm doing. Look at this great family I have, you know, like really tell yourself all these positive things that you need to tell yourself on a daily basis if necessary. But please, like, you know, slap yourself every time you say something bad about yourself. It's a waste of time. Don't do that.
Sai, I can volunteer to help you with. Sai is actually a great guy. We share notes, and we're even doing a joint study now. So when he said he was 19-year-old, I'm like, what? You know, so the guy's amazing. I don't know how he feels to see it. Sai, come on.
Sai, you're 19?
Yeah.
Wow, that's the age of, I don't want to say what number of my children is at that age, so, but yeah, I think I'm just going to, Kim, I mean, who was the last person that spoke? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for what you said to Sai, and that's what family does. So you can hear everybody telling you, you're great, you're 19. You need to understand, some of us are, you know, grandparent age to you, and you are on course to learn this, you know, the things you're learning, and you make a mistake and you start beating yourself up for what? Some people are 19, they are not learning anything new any day. You need to understand that people are impressed with what you're achieving. People see what you don't see, and you need to start seeing it. You really do need to start seeing it. Ugo, if you're working closely with him, please try and affirm him and tell him, remind him how good he is, please.
Sai is amazing. Like I have not
please
met any 19-year-old that is that talented. Sai is great. Amazing.
Did you hear that?
Amazing.
Did you hear that?
The family, forgive me. There's one harsh thing we do. We have a hard stop at 2 hours. And this has been so rich. I love our family. When we went from Tableau and data storytelling to counseling Sai on not beating himself up, which is perfectly appropriate for our family. But Donabel, you are loved, you are respected, you are looked up to, you are our mentor. Thank you so much for coming today. And we hope
can I say thank you to Donabel, though? I didn't get to say anything about the presentation.
Ngozi, no one's going to tell you no on